In this book, we're plunging into a world where your name, your very bloodline, well, it isn't just who you are, it can be destiny.
Yeah, it dictates your place, your purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe even locks in certain virtues from birth.
But this is also a world stalked by this really horrifying phenomenon, something called forging.
Right, forging. It can just shatter those bonds, strip away the very essence of kinship, of connection.
Leaving people as empty shells, devoid of empathy, family ties, purpose. I mean, what does it truly mean, the book asks, to lose the most fundamental human connections?
It's a chilling question, isn't it? And the book, it doesn't flinch. It shows us the devastating answer, really.
It does. You see the society grappling with this profound loss, questioning what's left when empathy is just gone.
Absolutely. And that stark reality, that's the backdrop for the challenging beginnings of a boy who starts out nameless, just fits in this specific book.
So our mission today is to kind of peel back the intricate layers of his story. We want to unpack the strange rules of this world.
The unique and often brutal path he's forced onto.
Yeah. And the surprising contrasting forms of power that exist, plus his desperate struggle, to forge his own identity and find connection amidst all this brutality and manipulation.
And, this kind of analysis, digging into character motivations, the society, the core questions the story raises, it's exactly the sort of critical engagement we champion.
Definitely. It ties right into our Mindful Moments series over on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that channel uses AI book analysis specifically designed to inspire you, the listener, to reflect more deeply and think critically about stories and ideas, much like what we're about to do right now.
Okay, so let's get into this strange world. It's built on this farcier legacy, right? This tradition where royal kids get names meant to lock in virtues.
Yeah.
Like King Taker, the first one.
Exactly. That's the idea anyway.
Yeah.
A name binding you to a quality, maybe even magically.
Yeah.
But as the book shows, pretty fast.
It's no guarantee.
Not at all. And our main character, Fitz, he arrives without a name, just boy, brought in and immediately tagged as a royal bastard.
That nameless state, that's key. It instantly marks him as outside the established order, doesn't it? Uncertain, no place in that rigid naming tradition.
Absolutely. And his arrival at the keep, well, it's anything but quiet. Burrich, his grandfather's man, brings him. And boom, instant outcast.
The whispers start right away. FitzChivalry's son, unexpected, unwanted by a lot of people. That label, royal bastard, it's like a brand.
It really is. Sets him apart, makes his early life incredibly difficult. And that life is defined by the stables, mostly, and Burrich's care.
Such a fascinating relationship there. Burrich seems so gruff, harsh, even the beer, sleeping in straw.
Right, but underneath there's this deep, complex protection. He makes sure the boy is fed, safe, looked after in his own way.
He's a guardian shaped by his own past, that leg injury, and he has this presence. He can control others just with his demeanor almost.
He can, and he's teaching Fitz a different kind of resilience, something court life would never offer.
And it's through these early, often unconventional connections outside the formal keep structure that Fitz starts learning about the wider world. Like Molly, right, initially called Nosebleed.
Molly's fantastic for showing this. She's pure resilience, street smarts. Despite her own hardships, her father's drinking, the bruises she sometimes has, she's tough.
And resourceful. She teaches Fitz practical things like finding shields on the rocks, candle making, herbs.
Exactly. Lavender, crushed sweet, bee balm, thresher's root, trying to recreate her mother's scented candles. We see her grow into Molly Chandler, determined. She represents this practical, grounded strength.
A strength Fitz doesn't really find inside the keep walls. And then there's Lady Patience, FitzChivalry's wife. She takes him in.
Yeah, and she's introduced as someone deeply wounded by her past, especially, her inability to have children, which the book makes clear was really rubbed raw by Fitz's existence.
But once she gets past trying to make him a typical prince, her way of teaching him is, well, unique is putting it mildly.
Completely outside the norm. Gardening. Plant propagation. Grafting an apple branch onto a pear tree so it bears pears.
Right. Perfumery, even tattoo artistry. These aren't standard princely studies.
Not at all. They're skills rooted in patience, observation, working with nature. And she gives him that terrier pup, remember? Vixen's son.
Crucial. A different kind of companionship, which becomes really poignant later, given Burrich's views on animal bonds.
Definitely. And those interactions, plus assignments from someone like Chade that make him observe the lower staff.
He learns so much just by watching and interacting respectfully, the lives, the skills, the perspectives of the common folk. The book even notes he gets this quiet reputation, like a sharp youngster, a good lad.
Almost by accident. It shows how real connection can happen outside those rigid structures.
Okay, but moving from those internal connections, we have to talk about the shadow hanging over everything, the Red Ship Raiders.
Ugh, yes. And they aren't just raiders. The book paints them as more like a cult, gaining power through absolutely brutal means, primarily centered around their signature tactic.
Forging. The book defines it so chillingly. Victims lose all sense of kinship, family ties, empathy. Just gone.
They become selfish, sometimes violent, sometimes just empty, idle burdens, scavenging like animals.
It's not just theft or violence. It's like the removal of the very glue that holds society, humanity together.
The stories from the coast are just horrific examples. Think of Forge Village, devastated, smoke, ruins.
And the returned hostages, the forge, they're just there scavenging, fighting over kettles like crows. No recognition, no concern.
The terror is so deep, the surviving villagers actually stone Chade and Fitz out of fear. There's even talk of the Pock Man theory, trying desperately to explain why.
And then there's Sheepmire. Such a stark contrast. Those villagers, they refused the ransom.
Yeah, instead they met their own forged kin with force. Yeah. Halters, shackles, clubbing them senseless just to bring them home.
The stories from Sheepmire, maybe even more heartbreaking, because they tried to reclaim them. A mother rejecting her own child because they were just a shell.
A child attacking its father. The forged stealing from their own families, showing no thanks, no affection, nothing.
Yet the Sheepmire villagers kept trying, clinging to this hope that the red ship sickness, as they called it, might pass.
That perseverance against something so fundamentally dehumanizing, that's a powerful insight the book offers.
But what's really terrifying and fascinating is that despite all these vivid accounts, these desperate attempts to understand the mechanism of forging, it stays a mystery in this book.
Completely. Is it something consumed, smelled? Is it magical, mundane? We just don't know. And that lack of knowing just ramps up the fear, the helplessness.
Absolutely. And that lack of understanding, it connects in an interesting way to the different paths of power in this world. You've got the overt, formal skill, and then the subtle, often feared wit.
And Fitz is uniquely positioned, right? He experiences both. His training with Chade, the king's assassin, is anything but conventional.
It's way beyond just combat. Chade teaches observation, how to lie well, understanding people, stealth.
And yes, the lethal skills. Striking points to incapacitate or kill silently. Chade calls assassination the diplomacy of the knife.
Presents it as a tool, doesn't he? Quiet work, useful for hostage exchanges or marital alliances. You see it in his tests, like the stone game or getting something from the king's night table.
And his intense reaction when Fitz questions loyalty? It shows it's about power, yes, but a hidden, pragmatic, and morally gray kind.
Then, in total contrast, you have the skill training under Galen.
Ugh, Galen. The skill master, but his position is purely political, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tied to King Shrewd's second queen, Desire. A pet, the book calls him.
He's portrayed as cruel, arrogant, just dripping with contempt for Fitz's low birth. And his fear and hatred of the wit, it's visceral.
Rooted in that awful story of the girl with birds who was beaten to death, his skill training methods are brutal, no breaks, cold exposure.
And he makes that deliberate, vicious attempt to break Fitz mentally during that joining trial, slamming into his mind.
It's a power structure, built completely on lineage and formal training. The skill is this mind connection, often over distance. You see Verity using it constantly to see ships, people far off.
And you feel it consuming him, right?
Exactly. While the wit, conversely, it's this instinctive animal bond. And society views it with immense fear, revulsion.
Burrish's reaction to it is so strong. Deep-seated fear and hatred. He sees it as shameful, even worse than being forged, almost.
That contrast is crucial. Galen represents the power sanctioned by the court, by the system. The wit is this hidden, almost primal thing that's actively suppressed, punished.
The book constantly hammers home that societal fear, the prejudice against the wit. It shows how ingrained the rejection of this natural bond is. It forces Fitz to hide this fundamental part of himself.
Which, of course, makes navigating the whole web of relationships even more dangerous for Fitz. And those farseer family dynamics are central. And boy, are they complex.
King Shrewd. He's the master manipulator. He sees people, Fitz included, mostly as pieces on his political chessboard.
Totally. He talks about quiet work, hostage exchanges, marital alliances. It's clear he sees individuals as tools.
Even that incident with the knife where Fitz just takes it from the king's tray, it feels like another test, some complex game Shrewd is playing.
Then there's Verity, the soldier prince. So burdened by duty, consumed by the skill, it feels like this draining obligation for him.
A real contrast to his father Chivalry's diplomatic style or Regal's focus on just appearance.
But Verity also shows these moments of real connection, trust, with Fitz, inviting him to breakfast, seeming aware of his secret tasks, providing simple comforts in his room.
Giving him that fine sword, and eventually offering to teach him the skill himself, acknowledging how Galen messed things up, that line about riding with his eyes when Fitz accidentally skills.
Right.
Powerful moment.
Very powerful. Then you swing to the other extreme. Regal, petty, cruel, completely self-absorbed, obsessed with wealth and appearance.
Remember that observation about decorations, not princes? That sums him up. He's openly antagonistic to Fitz, and it's heavily implied he's behind the attempts on Fitz's life.
He really embodies the worst of the court's shallowness and cruelty. Chivalry, Fitz's father, is mentioned briefly, his legacy of ruling by example, grace, the watchtowers like jewels. It sets up a contrast and explains why he abdicated.
And floating above it all, almost, is the Fool, enigmatic figure in those tower rooms, full of color and art.
So cryptic. Is he prescient? Maybe. Sometimes annoying with the "I warned you so." But then he reveals surprising insights, like knowing the details of the Burt-Galen fight.
He represents this different perspective, right? Maybe more intuitive, prophetic, outside the normal court games.
Definitely. And these complex relationships, they offer Fitz these glimmers of belonging, but also betrayal and huge challenges, which leads us straight into the trials he faces.
How they shape his understanding of loyalty, of duty. The Champé mission is a big one.
A major test. Shrewd and Chade send him to assassinate Prince Ruisk. The book really lays bare the moral weight of that for a young boy.
And the journey itself exposes him to a completely different culture, too. The Chiyoda people, their customs, those strange gardens. It broadens his world, even while he's on this dark errand.
But it's during this mission that the attempts on his life really escalate, almost certainly Regal behind it.
The poisoning, that brutal fight in the stables where Birch gets so badly hurt, Fitz's own injuries, stark reminders of the danger he's always in.
But that moment afterwards, reconnecting with Smithy the pup,
Yeah.
it's incredibly powerful, that wit bond resurfacing, offering comfort when he's physically broken.
The aftermath is significant, too. Birch recovers physically, but loses his memory of the attack.
A detail the Fool seems to know and shares, adding another layer to that strange connection between Fitz and the Fool.
And the Fool also tells the story of Birch challenging Galen at the Witness Stones, how he physically beat the Skillmaster.
Which apparently diminished Galen's skill ability afterwards.
Mm.
And we hear about August's fate, too. Then King Iod's gives to Fitzruisk's ring, the arrowhead that killed him. So poignant. Underscores the heavy, complex outcome.
After all that, Fitz is, understandably, in despair. He feels worthless, longs for a simple life away from it all.
But he can't escape. He has to accept the reality of his role. He continues with these difficult tasks like hunting the forged.
Which the epilogue reminds us is just cold, thankless work. Spreading poisons, mercy killing them. Grim indeed. Yet this section of the book ends with that moment of Verity's trust. His offer to teach Fitz the skill, acknowledging Galen had scarred him, but still seeing Fitz's potential.
It leaves him on a path forward. A difficult one for sure, but a path.
So we've journeyed through these harsh realities, the losses, but also those fragile glimmers of connection in this book. Reflecting on Fitz's early story, you really see this complex interplay, don't you? Power, duty, personal growth, all forged under immense pressure.
And this kind of analysis really getting into character, motive, consequence, the societal implications in a world built this richly that's exactly the sort of critical engagement we hope to foster. You can find more explorations like this designed to provoke thought and deepen your understanding of complex narratives in our Mindful Moments series on YouTube.
And right here in our podcasts.
So what does this book ultimately impress upon us? It presents a world of, well, brutal realities. The devastating loss from forging, the manipulation of power, the crushing weight of duty.
But it also shows us unexpected moments of empathy, fierce loyalty. It makes you ask, what kind of strength really matters most here?
Is it the overt power of the skill, the hidden lethality of the assassin, that fierce reviled bond of the wit?
Or maybe, just maybe, the simple resilience and capacity for connection shown by characters like Molly or Patience.
It forces you to consider, In a world where duty demands unspeakable acts, where empathy can be literally removed, how do characters like Fitz even find their moral compass?
How do they define right and wrong for themselves? How do they hold on to their humanity?
That's a provocative thought, isn't it? Something that really stays with you long after you finish the book.
It really does. So if this look into the book has sparked your curiosity, please take a moment right now. Subscribe to this podcast. Join us for future deep dives into fascinating topics and stories.
And share this episode with someone else who loves exploring rich, complex worlds and challenging ideas.
You can find a link to purchase the book in the show notes if you want to experience this world firsthand.
And as always, keep thinking critically about the stories, the ideas, and all the information you encounter.